What the hex is going on, ladies and gentlemen?
What the hex is you guys talking about?
Good morning, you guys. When Bob's.
Talking about Hex, the reason I wanted to talk about it today, I found something inside of the chart that I know is going to blow your guys' mind.
This shit's legit. The reality has changed. It's not the same fucking game anymore. Fucking Hex. Hex.
Hex. The biggest winner, of course, was Hex, and we want to know, well, what the heck?
What the heck?
What the heck happened?
What the heck?
What the hex? What the Donovan Jolley?
Yo, what up?
To What the Hex, the home of the $10 Hex price prediction. Wow.
I'm ready
Man, we
for
had
it.
a clip from TA with Toby last week, and it went viral in the community. $10 Hex. This is crazy talk. Or
Never
maybe not.
since there has been such a viral thing since herpes.
But the thing is, we always pride
Hopefully
ourselves
more
in
viral.
not in trying to not make any forward-moving price predictions here on the show. And this is now what we got known for in the community is the $10 Hex clip. So that's been pretty crazy. Man, we got Donovan on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
D.I.Y.
very much for having me.
investing. Yeah. Now it's an honor to have you. You're probably, we have hopes that Richard Hart might come on the show one day, but because he will crush you with the numbers. But if he doesn't,
100%.
you will probably be the biggest YouTuber like ever that we would have on this show. So
Hold up.
50,000 followers on the X, 85 on
DJ,
the
DJ,
YouTube.
please.
crazy.
DJ.
Yes.
Wait, one moment. Since when did we ever think that Richard Hart would ever come on this tiny pissant show that we run every week?
He watches. I'm telling you, he
I
watches.
bet he will.
You know,
I bet he
there-
will. I wouldn't doubt that. He's going to come on. I got confidence.
Right. Well, thank you. With all of our live viewers of, I believe we're in double digits now. Maybe have we broken double digits? We have 14.
Long time ago. This is a good start. We had 20 people watching. Smash the likes, hit the subscribe. We still need to get our numbers up. So Papa B,
Yes.
this is now your fanboy moment of fame. Tell us how you was
Yes.
watching Donovan back
Yes.
in the old days.
Well,
when you
well,
started.
back when I was a young pup, before I had any gray hair, I remember playing with remember those hoops and sticks that they used to play in those old timey movies. I was playing with those, and then I found two streamers before I met the old Richard Hart on the stream virtually, watching his antics and said, "Oh, okay, this is some cool stuff." Before Richard, I used to watch. I fancied myself a bit of a fledgling trader back in 2017. I said, I got this whole thing wired tight. I got to watch these guys and take notes and understand, accumulation and distribution and Wyckoff this and Wyckoff that. So I found Mr. Donovan Jolley. He was a very colorful character in a short format, packed with information, lots of lines and lots of things that I had to understand, lots of research on the side. I believe that there were two roads to success back in 2018. Number one, and of course you're going to correct me exactly what year we're talking about, Donovan.
Mhm.
But may I call you Donovan? Is that a
Yeah,
polite
of
thing
course.
to ask?
Of course.
Thank
It's everybody call me Donovan. It's
Great.
weird when people say D.I.Y.
No. You can
Hey,
call me Your
DIY.
Majesty. It's okay. But anyway, there were two methods I thought that were going to get me rich. Number one was reading white papers. I was reading every damn white paper of every ICO shitcoin that came out there, and they were like, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of copy paste, but I believe that was going to give me the clairvoyance to be able to pick a winner. Wrong. Number two, I was going to learn to do TA better than anyone else, and I turned to people like you, Donovan, that were doing Wyckoff method, and maybe you can tell us exactly what there is about that. If I have that right, if my memory serves, that was your Kuliana. And then we had Eric Crown, who had his own indication type of methodology. Both, big guns of that last two cycles ago. Is it now? Is that correct?
Well,
When
if
you
you
were-
say
you were
white
big?
paper, that sounds very 27. That's so 2017.
2017, right?
20
Exactly.
I didn't. My channel. I started it July 3rd, 2018. I was
Okay.
in that cycle, but I didn't
Oh, okay.
channel until 2018. So it would have been
Right.
sometime in there.
Yep. Okay. And but am I right about your methodology of TA, your flavor, your angle? You
Well,
had
see,
a big
from
following.
what
yeah.
I was teaching in 2018, it would have changed mainly just because I now understand 4-year cycles and cycle timeframes, whereas it wasn't until the very bottom of the 2018 bear market, probably like 6 months after I made my YouTube channel, that I really started to pivot towards that. Because the main things I focus on are market cycles, Elliott waves, and then emotional psychology of market cycles, and then time frames within those cycles. That's
Right.
like my
Elliott waves. Right. Exactly. Elliott waves was your big thing as well.
yeah.
I
Back then,
remember.
that would have been my primary focus. So I'm
I
sure
remember. I remember this. Yeah. So, but the moral of the story is, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to burst a bubble or anything like that. It's not criticism. What I found in myself was that I just didn't have the gray matter to be able to follow everything that you're laying down at that time. It was incredibly deep. And market psychology and all these things that happen. Just I wasn't a good trader.
Right.
And so the big thing that really the allure for Richard Hart was he was condoning a different philosophy, and that was just sit on your fucking hands, dude.
Yeah.
And let me build something that you can just stake this thing, earn yield, and just concentrate on the community and yourself and well-being and longevity and all these other things. And that kind of I said, okay, I'm gonna. At first, I scoffed at it, like a lot of people did, felt that this is just a con game. Certainly this guy couldn't really be in it to change the world for the better. But then you kind of give it a go, and you're like, hold on a second. I went out today. I got a little skin on my, little color on my skin, and I hear birds chirping, and I can actually stop doing all these chart analysis, things. But hey, I really was captivated by what you were laying down. I thought it was really, really cool. I'd love to get back into it. We have a guy who's going to come at the end of our show, Toby-Wan Hixobi, who does our little TA. Maybe it'll be great to see how you guys, whether or not you're complementary in your philosophies or you have something to kind of learn from each other. But that's my whole simp moment. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the show, sir. And it's great to have you here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate anybody that's been supporting my channel for, a long time. Anybody that remembers me from, you would have been the first 1,000 subscribers on my channel if you would have been watching me back then. So, I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, considering, how far it's been from that point, how much has changed from that point. It's cool that there's still people around that actually knew what I was doing back then. So I do appreciate that.
My pleasure. And thanks for the follow on Twitter. That was really unexpected. I'm like, hey, that was easy. I probably couldn't have gotten through to you back in the day. And one quick question, and I don't mean to take a dip, but I remember that you were on daily back then, really grinding it out. Then there was a time where you kind of weren't maybe the bear market, you kind of took a break or whatever, and then you came back in force in the next bull. Is that this kind of pattern for traders? Is it that they want to kind of captivate audience and you have more to give during a bear market or a bull market, and then you kind of take a break and with all your cash that you accumulated from all these trades, and then you kind of take the bear market off? Is that what you did, or did I just not notice?
Well, honestly, in the last bear market, I definitely took a lot of time off just because I'd spent the last like 3-4 years basically just nonstop crypto. And then in the bear market, there's just, I mean, the real reason why people just take a break is because there's nothing really going on. Like the liquidity is leaving the market, unless you're just sitting there shorting the market, which, you know, is equally as profitable and is the only thing you can really be doing inside of the bear market. So when you're talking like the 100x gains, the 1000x gains, like finding early narratives before they play out, like you kind of got to get in when the new cycle's liquidity sets in. So like that's why I invest based off the time frames, is because it gives me a little bit more of a strategic advantage when to play them. And so when we're in the bear market and I'm just waiting to come back in with capital, at that point, then it's just like a matter of, you know, well, I'm just sitting here. Because I don't really trade that much. Like I initially thought that's what I wanted to do, but I learned that you make so much more money by being early to specific narratives before they play out and just holding the majority of the cycle. And nobody knows when the top or the bottom is, but I found that by trading 4-year cycles, it's the only thing that has been accurate enough to actually say, like, this is a good strategy to play the long-term game. And I've done it for myself. You know, I bought Solana at 60 cents. I bought Phantom at, you know, I don't know. All of those were multi-hundred X's that just ended up running. And it's all just because of the fact I understood when to time the market and when to position the money. Because you could have $10,000, but if you're in the right time of the market, you know, you have a 6-figure plus portfolio, multi-6-figure portfolio in fairly short amount of time. So imagine what happens if you have like multi-6 figures to now throw at the bear market. So it just compounds exponentially if you can play it right. Most people can't play it right. I've lost a lot of money before I ever learned how to be profitable, along with most people. Like a lot of people that I talk to in the community, that not so much the Hex community, but like ETH community that have been here for 8-10 plus years, early investors into Bitcoin, they kind of have the same sort of, you know, experiences where they got wrecked so many different times. You know, I have a friend that's lost tens of millions of dollars, today's market value, from Mt. Gox when that exchange collapsed in 2014, I believe, 2013, 2014. So there's been a lot of different things that, you know, regardless of how you're positioned, you might think that you're positioned well. And there's just so much that changes, so much that develops over the cycles that you never really can truly say. So, you know, it's all just a learning experience. We've all lost money. I'm going to continue to lose more money. But with 8 years learning from all of these mistakes, you get to the point where you start to catch on a little bit. So, you know, it's just
That's a great question. I don't mean to hog the mic from the other gentlemen who obviously have lots of questions for you, but
I had a
you
follow
just
up on
touched
too on this. But
right. You just
continue.
touched on something though. What then do you see Hex and the whole RH ecosystem as something different from what you've seen in the past? I mean, is there anything that that attracted you, other than of course the community being the most, let's say, piranha fish type of viral type of crazy community, eclectic band of misfit and crazy thinkers and dreamers that you may have seen in the crypto space, shill. But other than that, what did you see that attracted you to Hex then, when you had these other ideas about picking winners and multi-hundred X's? What was the allure?
Honestly, just how well, mainly like what it was able to reach without any sort of crypto community support. It was initially the community that blew me away. I was like, how could there be such an engaged and thriving community yet nobody talks about this like on any of the other chains? And then I looked at the TVL and I saw that the TVL looked really bullish, and I looked at the charts and I saw that they were bottomed. And so then it was like kind of a combination of multiple things. Like I always look for confirmation across multiple fronts. I saw an engaged, thriving community. I saw a bunch of bottom charts and I was like, okay, well, this is really unique. And then on top of all of that, when I started to look into it more, as I started to stream with people, as I started to stay in the community a little bit longer, it started to get to that point where I actually had, you know, like I saw how it was the most decentralized chain. That was kind of the big thing for me, where I was like, I see all of these cryptos, but most of their liquidity is on centralized exchanges. Even their technology has a lot of backends where you can come in and manipulate things. Like Solana can be shut down and turned off at any point. And I saw a lot of value in being truly decentralized. So when I saw the thriving community, I saw basically the only chain in crypto that's truly decentralized. It brought me back to why I got into crypto in 2016, where Bitcoin was be your own bank, be decentralized, stay away from governments and all of this stuff. And I still embody those same values, but crypto has stopped being that anymore. As Bitcoin has this ETF, Ethereum is going to get the ETF. All of these, cryptos are going to move towards being more inside of the normal TradeFi world. And I think that the real value is something that is actually decentralized. And so far, this is the only thing I found.
Wow.
And I think one of the things that make this community stand apart from others is the education front, because we are one of the few communities that actually first try to educate people regarding security, hardware wallets, and things like that, and then talking about onboarding and stuff. When the sacrifices for Pulsechain and PulseX were live, we would stay 24 hours in a row, like days on end, on the voice chat. And the first thing that people would come to the chat was, where can I buy this? How can I throw money at this and make millions? And what we always started by saying is, how are you securing your crypto? Do you have a hardware wallet? Do you know what you're doing? Why are you throwing money at this without any security measures?
Right.
Because you're going to get rinsed when the bull market comes.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's still happening right now to some people. But we focus, at least most of us, on the correct things, which is make sure that the people that come stay, and not that they come, get rinsed, and go away again. Because we want people to come, know what they're doing, know what the risks are, what the benefits are, and have a good experience. Because I have people in my family and my friends that for them crypto is staying on Coinbase or crypto.com and trading one crypto for each other.
Yeah.
They don't even know what is a blockchain, what are gas fees, why are there gas fees at all, and how do they actually keep hold of their own money in a secure way, right?
Yeah.
And I think other than our community, I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, you guys had to be by default because you guys were kicked off and made decentralized. You guys were the first people to use Uniswap. You guys had to build alternatives. So like that's why I see so much value is like whether it was designed to be this way or whether it just happened. Like I think the beauty of it is just the fact that it is what it is and it is decentralized, whether Richard Hart planned it to be this way or whether it was just because it was gatekept. So it created the perfect storm. I think that is much more likely, but either way, like it is the only kind of chain that exists that there is enough money and liquidity on it to be able to build things for new people to want to actually bridge over and make money. But then also it embodies all of those original decentralization, like core narratives, core focused. And that only comes because of the fact Richard Hart I think that what happened was Hex was gatekept. He didn't necessarily want it to be, but it was. He saw how much value he was able to create with it, how much people genuinely believed in what he created. And so then he realized, wow, this is the most decentralized crypto in the market. It's actual real DeFi. If I created a layer 1 and I created a DEX that was actually fully decentralized, we would also have the most decentralized chain. So I think it was a cause and effect of him realizing these things, being smart enough to actually go at and plan ahead and build it out as the time goes. And now here we are with all of these great things. We have this decentralized chain. We have new people on board that are trying to build. And I think it's kind of just the perfect recipe for an entire global market to tap in. People think we need centralized exchanges. They think that we need to be listed over here on these like Coinbase and stuff. And it's silly because more money exists globally on the blockchain and it can just flow like that than you ever could finding some centralized exchange that can only target specific groups across the world.
Yeah, I've seen you had some exchange with some Hexicans on Twitter about being listed on a centralized exchange. Is it a good thing? Is it not? Of course, usually because we're like, so much in the Hexican avenue here, where we say no, we don't want to be listed there everywhere. But I have to say, with Pulsechain at the start, at the launch phase, being listed on OKX, it was kind of nice. This is for. It's easier for people to get in that way who are already in crypto. What would be your main argument that it's not a good thing and better to leave it as it is? Is it just the volume and the wash trading and all that, or?
I mean,
Transparency.
it really just comes down to keeping the core values of what I think is already here. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have all of this new money come on. You're going to have the new people. We've already seen Ben Armstrong come on board. You've seen people like me come on board. Now, I can say that I really believe in Pulsechain. I don't know how Ben actually feels about any of this stuff. I would say he's probably more on the fence. I think that most people see the community. People in my situation, they see the community, they see how engaged it is, but then they don't necessarily look any deeper than that. They're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to, post charts over here and use all of this community for engagement, which most people I think do so far. But you're going to have people come over from normal chains that see the value in it, that see the value of being decentralized. And I just think that by having the tokens on a centralized exchange, you're defeating the whole purpose and the entire, like how many years of streams that Richard had preaching why it's important to be decentralized, why you should keep your money off of centralized exchanges. I 100% understand the accessibility to liquidity by being listed on a centralized exchange. And that's why, like, a Binance listing, some global market type centralized exchange that has a little bit more liquidity, maybe a Coinbase, something like that. I don't necessarily think it's as bad of a thing. Like, I do understand why you would need it. So whatever ends up happening, we'll just have to see. But I do see the value of both sides. I personally lean towards decentralization just because, what happened in 2022 in the bear market with all of these centralized exchangers, FTX, the lenders, all of that crap.
Yeah.
That can ultimately be avoided if we continue to stick to the same values. And I preach those values because I've seen every other chain and community I've been a part of move away from that. So it's like I come over here almost as a last ditch effort to save the original values of the blockchain and the original crypto community, because most people now weren't around in 2016. They don't know what crypto was like back then. They don't know the type of community, how supportive people were, how at the same time that was right when it migrated to being more cutthroat. But I see that in this community. It's kind of the last one where things are still kind of in those same values. People are supportive. People want decentralization, but I'm starting to see the greed take over where they're valuing their own profit more than they're valuing decentralization. And as much as I want profit, I think that if you really wanted that much profit, you could go build something or like do something valuable. Like if your money's your option, do something valuable, but create something valuable to where you actually earn that amount of money. Like it's
what we always pride ourselves in is that we have data to back up all of our claims, which is kind of the irony why everybody is sort of calling us a scam when we can totally like really prove everything that we're talking about for years. And I see Crispy Man here who's in the chat from hexfire.io. That is our data guy. And I remember the days when we were listed on Nomics, when the coin ranking site Nomics was out, and for every coin they gave you a transparency rating of the daily trading volume, how transparent that is. And because all of our trading, Uniswap in the earlier days, now with Pulsechain, everything is on chain. There is no wash trade. Like you can see where everything moves. And Hex, which was ranked somewhere in the 2030s, had a transparency rating of 98%. On that side versus Bitcoin, which always has the #1 spot, only had a transparency rating of 56%.
Yeah.
But they call us the scam, and so that is the irony and the hypocrisy in a way from the rest of the
everything is on chain.
And when you end up getting proven wrong by going on to that was the thing. I actually looked into what was on chain, like what the facts of the matter were, and like looked for a Zach XBT expose thread about the thing, and then you don't find anything, and you're like, okay, well, aside from him just owning a lot of the supply, there's actually nothing bad that ever happened. So it's like, as long as he doesn't sell, as long as you can trust enough for that to actually be kind of like a Satoshi wallet that sits there forever, like it really is better in every sort of way. Because not only can you earn yield, Bitcoin doesn't give you that. It's actually decentralized, and Bitcoin is not that either anymore. And, I just think that there's more value around that. I still think Bitcoin is the driver of value in the market. But, if you're breaking down things from a fundamental basis, Hex gives you yield, Bitcoin does not give you yield. So what's a better long-term store of value?
And not only that, but the reason why the way has a big amount was because at the beginning when X was launched, many Bitcoiners decided not to claim their rewards.
Yeah.
They could have earned most of the supply
Right.
for free in a decentralized manner, because it was the first ever token released with full code, with 3 audits. Before that, there was none of it. It was all empty promises and ICOs. So the first time you could buy X or swap into X, it was a fully completed, decentralized, and audited code, which was the first of its kind. Now everyone copies it,
True.
but we were the standard at the time. And that was one of the reasons I actually decided to invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason others didn't claim was because they decided not to trust, or they didn't want to trust Richard because he was a Bitcoiner and now was talking bad about Bitcoin. So Bitcoiners decided not to free claim, and that's why the OA itself ended up having so big of a supply, because others didn't take advantage of the opportunity they were given.
Well, that makes sense. I didn't understand it from that position, but that actually makes a lot more sense, because
Yeah, because
I actually kind of forgot that was the initial, that was why he pissed everybody off so much, was because, well, that's the funny thing. He gave everybody, all the Bitcoiners, the ability to claim, and then it pissed everybody off when he said it was better than Bitcoin. It's the better version of Bitcoin.
Like
and then
only
everything kind of was
only 2.7% of all Bitcoiners claimed.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the OA ended up having so much supply, because I don't know if you know how the adoption amplifier worked, but it went on for almost a year, 350 days.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the way the initial quote unquote price of X was based on the amount of ETH that was put in the bucket for the day, and the amount of X for the day was divided by all the ETH. So the price was based on the amount of people that join in to get the X, right? The more people join in on a specific day, the less X would be given per Ethereum, and so the quote-unquote price would be lower. That's why on the initial days, the price was a lot higher, and then it started dropping because everyone FOMO'd in on the first days. Like
Guilty.
Me too. More than 60,000 Ethereum was put in on the bucket on the first day. So
wow,
it was crazy how people flocked into it, and that's why the price has that big dip, because it was simply a ratio between X and Ethereum.
mm-hmm.
No, it's not like people were selling down the price, because it was not even traded anywhere.
Yeah.
Only after the first weeks was actually started to be trading on Uniswap, and people were trying to arbitrage between the AA and Uniswap itself. And so since the OA got a copy of all the bonuses and people didn't claim, because the amount that people could get from the adoption amplifier was based on the value that was not claimed by the Bitcoiners. So the only reason we were able to get as much from the adoption amplifier and there was so much left for the OA is because since Bitcoiners didn't claim it, we were able to get it through the AA. Basically.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I didn't fully understand all of the details around that, but now it makes sense.
That brings me. I'm sorry to just derail this a little bit, but that makes me really curious. As a personality, as a YouTube personality, at what point did you kind of take notice of this whole thing going on? And we're always curious about this potential conspiracy that all these YouTube personalities and influencers out there are either colluding with each other, or they're compensated to specifically like gatekeep Hex. Did you see anything from that side? When did you come in? When did you take notice? And is this conspiracy a real thing?
So I watched Hex from the very beginning. I just didn't have money to buy into it. I wanted to. watched the whole thing. I didn't own Bitcoin or anything, like maybe a small amount or something like that. So it wasn't like I lived in my grandma's basement. So I didn't have anything, didn't have a car. I didn't get a driver's license till I was 20. So like I was really just kind of struggling to put any money in crypto, especially at the bear market where what I had just kind of collapsed. Because in 2018, that 2018 bear market, I got wrecked until I learned 4-year cycles. And then that was where it all clicked. So I remember watching Richard Hart before Hex back in the 2017 bull run. I remember when he came out with the whole idea of Hex and how Trevon James started shilling it, because that's where I heard about it from. And then from there, like, you know, I just knew I wasn't going to be able to afford to get in, so I didn't, kind of forgot about it. But then when the whole market started taking off, you did see that gatekeeping. But the problem was I didn't even hear about Hex for so long because of the fact it just wasn't anywhere. It was like I knew about it because I heard about it early on, but the average person just wasn't hearing about it at all. So unless you were like really niche into crypto, like look deeply into some of these communities, you just really didn't know about them because of the fact it wasn't on CoinMarketCap. That was pretty much where every random person would go to look at what coins are there. So when you don't have that listing, it just cuts out the ability to be seen. Like the only time you can get seen is through Twitter. And I don't necessarily think that like influencers are, I mean, here's the thing. If they're sponsored, then yeah, like who knows what their sponsors are telling them to do. Like I'm not sponsored by anybody that I have to go and like say like I can't go out and say anything. So I don't have to worry about anything like that. One of the things I see is that people assume I'm sponsored somehow by like Richard Hart. It's not even that like, yeah, like people think that I'm somehow sponsored in all of this.
No one is, unfortunately.
No one.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's our check then?
Yeah.
We've been grinding here for years.
I know, right? I tweeted that out. I was like,
Zero.
I was like, everybody keeps asking if I'm like sponsored. No, but like I tagged Richard Hart and I was like, if you want to sponsor me, like pay me, whatever. I'm glad to take whatever.
Just so people
Good luck.
understand, there are dozens of admins from the Richard Hart Telegram channels, like 24 hours a day there to try and help people out. And none of us are paid. And we have been there for more than 2 years. So that's how deep and how committed we are towards the project.
Yeah.
Because we even daily, we as admins, we will receive people that can I make a part of, do you need a manager for your team? Do you need a marketer or something like that? I have free cheap rates and things like that. And when we say no, we are not paid, that's not what we do here.
And they go
we never
away.
hear them again. Yeah. So because that's not, and people just don't understand how can there be so many people there willing to help others, and doing it for free. I'm not as active there as I used to be because now I have two kids,
right,
and a wife and 2 cats and a lot going on. But I'm still here. I still do code reviews. I try to help people out and try to make use of my expertise to add value to the community any way I can, basically. And like me, there are hundreds of others doing the same. And it's hard for people that are on the outside to understand why.
Yeah, to understand how this can be possible.
Yeah,
Like there are so many people
I didn't know how it was
volunteering.
possible. When I saw all of how everything was, well, that was why I stayed, was like I saw the community, it was crazy. But then I started to see how everything was community funded. Everything's community driven. Like there is nobody paying anybody to do any of this. And then it is also the most decentralized chain. You have the perfect combination of all of those factors where when I see that, it's just, I mean, I've never seen any more perfect sort of combination of factors than what we see with Pulsechain, than what we see with Hex. And whether it was purposely planned or not, that's what we got. And I think that that's why, you know, for me, it's like I've been early into Arbitrum. I was early into Optimism. I was early into Metis, all of these other, you know, protocols that have blown up recently. But I've never seen anything quite, you know, like what we're seeing over on Pulsechain. And so that's why I've stayed and predominantly been posting over here, is because like I see more value in being decentralized. It embodies more of the reasons I got into crypto. I've got to the point where I've almost just like lost passion with crypto because it's gone so far south. Like it's not even the same thing that it used to be anymore. So, you know, that's kind of like why I've been here, is this is the last ditch effort for all of us to kind of buckle into decentralization and hope that it works out, because if it doesn't work out here, it's probably just not going to work out anywhere.
Well, we all kind of, when you said about it get wrecked in 2018, kind of we all got wrecked. We've all been there with you, but then we discovered Hex, which, as Papa B said earlier, for us, it by being staked, it alleviates that day trading, the constant scalping. It takes that out of the equation. You just stake it. You DC-ain automatically because you're getting paid additional Hex every day, and that is how you grow your bag at the same time as you are holding for a longer period, and you're holding through these cycles, which I'm sure we can agree that is one way to make money in crypto.
Yeah.
But you say it's important to get in early. One follow-up question I had on that is, when you get in early on these things, and we pride ourselves as like the bottom spotters. Like, we're very good at spotting the bottom, like Bitcoin, the 16K bottom, nailed it. Before that, the 3K bottom and the other cycle. Like, we saw that. The Hex bottom just now at 2 zeros and a 3. Like, we know when the bottom is in. But what advice, what non-financial advice could you give somebody on how to spot a top? What are metrics, like when you get in on a project, what are metrics that you are watching for when it's time to get out, or when it's time to pull the plug on a certain
Elliott
investment?
Wave. Next question.
Honestly, the only way that I take profits is 4-year cycles. That's the only reason I use it, is for profit taking and also getting into bear market bottoms. If you look at the 4-year cycles, Bitcoin's perfectly bottomed 4 years from the last bear market bottom for like 10 years now. So following that trend is super easy, because all you have to know is, well, this thing goes up for 3 years, then it goes down for 1 year. So whenever Bitcoin gets towards the cycle top in its projected timeframes, which there's factors that, I'd have to go in depth in the chart to actually be able to like explain the whole thing. But based off the way our cycles have been up to this point, they've perfectly topped at the same time frame. So if you just understood when to get into the bottom, then you understood that we have a 3-year uptrend, considering it'll take another 1-year bear market before we're finished of the 4-year cycle. So you're analyzing from peak low of the bear market to peak low of the bear market. The time in between should equal exactly 4 years. And Bitcoin has done that for 10 years in a row now. So it has had like back to back to now back 4-year cycles. We bottomed perfectly at the end of the year once again at 2022. So when that happened, that basically showed that we started a brand new 4-year cycle. So we're looking at, if we follow the conventional trend that we've been at, we're looking at a cycle top at the end of the year 2025. Once that happens, once we're in like October, November, December, you're just selling. You don't pick the price. You don't guess the price. You just sell based off the time frames, because when you're getting in here at the bottom at the end of the year, you're up so much that it does not even matter whether you're trying to pick the top, because the people that pick the tops end up trying to get the people that pick the tops usually end up, holding too long, or the market doesn't go to their target. So then they never end up selling. And it kind of throws things off guard. Whereas like when you're not holding yourself to a specific price or a specific ROI, you're saying, well, Bitcoin follows these cycles. The market's driven by Bitcoin's new liquidity, or new liquidity coming into Bitcoin, trickling into the altcoins. So the second Bitcoin tops, the rest of the market's going to have another bear market too. So at the end of the day, the only thing I found that can accurately predict those sort of things are 4-year cycles. And as much as people will say you can't predict the market, if you understood 4-year cycles, you would have made multi-millions of dollars, just like so many other people have. It's just that, these things are bound to change. I don't think that we're always going to follow 4-year cycles. In fact, this could be the cycle that we stop doing that. And that's why, when it comes to picking tops, there's a lot of different factors that I have to come in, plan for. And the only way to do that is to understand in depth how the 4-year cycle works. Because it's like, just because we followed these 4-year cycles up to this point doesn't mean that we're always going to do that. There's always going to be a period where something shifts. And when that happens, if you understand, how to prepare for that, what it will do to the 4-year cycle, how it will change that trend, and how to actually go about profiting off of it, it doesn't really change very much. It's just the structure itself. Like, we're probably not going to have another new all-time high 4-year cycle. Like, what if the next 4-year cycle is us where we just creep along back close to those all-time highs before we start another new bear market? Like, we're not always going to follow these perfectly cyclical.
I think it will be a super cycle. Like, would you be willing to entertain the idea that now we have BlackRock entering in and they potentially could bring in lots of assets, trillions of dollars worth, which would totally put the 4-year cycle theory out of whack, and we maybe have another 3-year-long bull run from here, and then a crazy correction, or like that will put a wrench in that 4-year.
Most people assume longer cycle, they assume lengthening cycle, but what would actually happen is a shortened cycle where we would top early and then we'd start a multi-year bear market. So the only scenario
we don't want that.
No, exactly. And that's the other scenario. We either follow, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
We either follow a normal 4-year cycle or we do what's called a left translation, which is where we top early. We don't want to see us top early. The super cycle can exist in the 4-year cycle. Like, if we follow a normal 4-year cycle, it will be the biggest cycle ever because of the institutions that we have. But the problem is the institutions, they get involved and they have to have exit liquidity, and they have to get exit liquidity through retail investors. They are going to shill through mainstream news. They're going to get everybody to buy the top, and then all of the institutions are going to sell on them and realize their profit from accumulating back down in here. That will start a new bear market. I find it more likely that we either start breaking out right now and just start front running, because this would be the quickest we've ever gone into a new all-time high. If that happens, I think that we have an early cycle top. However, if we follow a normal 4-year cycle, I think that it ends up being the biggest cycle ever. The most money comes in, the most retail involvement, all of the institutions at the same time. Who knows what the price of Bitcoin would be, but that's what I hope for. That's what I want to happen. That's where we all make the most money. But I'm prepared for the alternative where that doesn't happen at the same time.
By early cycle, when would we top out if that's the case? Before we turn it over to Toby and a segment that we lovingly call the Wookiee, Toby.
Was that my cue? Oh, I messed up.
That was your cue, and you fucked it up. It's okay. Excellent. But Donovan, when would that cycle top happen if it was an early cycle?
End of the year this year to mid next year. Basically like it's hard to say what I would be. Because you can't predict those sort of things. Like it's in a left translation, that's where the wrench would be thrown into the mix of things. Like it would be the first time we did something different. So predicting that, what I think would happen is Bitcoin would just shoot straight into a new all-time high. We'd probably run to 120, 150K really quickly. And then once you're sitting at that $100,000 price point, and we're sitting at the end of the year, this year, maybe, I'm just selling, because that's going to be something way different from any of the prior cycles. 100% breaks the 4-year cycle trend up to that point, and then that would give us a left translation early cycle top. So where that is, nobody's going to know. Even if you understand the 4-year cycles, it comes into understanding like the emotional psychology, how crazy retail is getting. When we see Dogecoin going, whatever the hell's going on, we have Elon Musk going on SNL dressed like the Doge meme. When you see silly shit like that, that's when you sell. Just that's it. We don't really know.
Let me just add the caveat that when you say, DJ, that BlackRock and all the institutions are going to bring money into the ecosystem, the problem is they are bringing money into their pockets in the ecosystem, not to our pockets.
Yes, they are.
Their plan.
All right. On to Toby and his TA, and now you've got Donovan to hold your hand, look over your shoulder, and criticize everything that you put down. I would love to see this. I would love to see this tag team. But can you bring Toby up a little bit so he's not like covered up by his own name there? Is it possible? There you go. Now I'm okay. Fuck it.
We sacrifice Elmire.
I don't mind.
Bye, Elmire.
Sorry, man.
All right, and
Toby
Toby
is on mute.
doesn't have a working microphone, as it's usually the case here.
Boomer maneuver. Cannot hear you, Toby. It's
He's
just the way
muted.
we
He's
like
muted.
it. Just
Sons
the
of
way we like
bitches, you muted
Oh, here we
me. You
are.
did that. You did that.
I got ripped.
All my
Unfuck
shit's working, bro.
unfuck
It's like
your
you
shit,
muted
bro.
me. You muted me.
Okay,
you
enough.
sons of bitches.
Go.
They set me up for hey, Papa, I will walk the fuck out of here. I'm telling you, not today. Not today, Satan. Not today, Satan. All right,
No,
so
please.
time out. All right, I got to focus. All right. So I feel I'm a little on edge. I'm with Donovan. He is a very, very well-versed TA guy. That's why I put in my subtitle, TA pleb. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I also did what I could with what's left of my hair to honor the epic hairstyle of Mr. Jolley there. So, I'm working with what I got left. So that's just kind of where we're at.
Speaking of that, did you know that Donovan had a
You
had
got
a,
beard hair. I don't have that, so
It'll come in time.
that Donovan
You
had
lose
a-
it here
had
and
a-
it comes in here.
He had a top 10 hit record out back in the
And
wow.
we all
Welcome
know
to the music career.
Wait. Hold on. You're overlooking. You're overlooking his
a
1960s.
famous musician, probably.
Yeah, you're overlooking his real hits like Sunshine Superman and Mellow Yellow. I think those are excellent.
The
They
tracks.
call me
He
Mellow
wasn't around
Yellow.
back then.
Boom, boom. Yep. Oh yeah. All that good stuff. So
Yeah,
I guess
with
we're starting
Toby.
off with BTC, right? Since that's what we've been talking about. What I've done, and I actually this chart I've been using for a long time, like back when I was day trading BTC, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink prior to getting more involved in the Arch ecosystem. Actually, down here at the bottom of the screen there, you can see where in this green lettering it says "Begin Bull Run?" ? And that's exactly where I dumped it all for Hex. Because I'm an idiot, right? Or I thought maybe I was an idiot, or maybe I was a genius. I don't know. So that was right before the big payday. And I had a decision to make. I'd clawed my way back from the depths of like turning a 6-figure account into a 5-figure account, like a 90% drop off in the bear of 2018. Clawed my way back to almost break even, and I'm like, big payday, dump it all and go all in with Hex, or are we about ready to have a bull run? So I had the begin bull run ? I dumped it all for Hex, and then of course we break the pattern I'd been looking at, and that was indeed the beginning of the bull run in the end of October of 20. Beginning of November, and then we went to that big parabolic first top in April of 21. So, anywho, we saw how all that played out. I'm happy that I made the decision. There were times in there that I thought I was the biggest idiot on the planet. Other times I felt like a genius. Now I'm kind of somewhere in the middle with those choices. But basically, what I've done is I took the thank you. I know Papa's always singing my praises with friends like Papa. But anywho, on this right here, you can see this fractal. And I'm not a big fractal guy, right? But it's like, I thought this might be interesting to see if we do this cycle, what we did last cycle, which was unusual in the 4-year cycles, which was a double top, right? So if you're looking here, it's like you can see like the run up to where I showed the breakout, and here's the halvening back in May of 20, right? So if we bring this forward and we just kind of try to bring that in line with where we're, what's kind of been happening recently, and then I'll dumb this back down so it doesn't bleed everything out. Actually, just this would be easier like that. So now you can kind of see we're following that pattern and have worked our way up. We had a little pullback and we're back in the 50s now. So we're kind of following this weird trend that would actually have us hitting all-time highs around the halvening, which would definitely be an early play out of what's happening. I don't know that we're going to have that kind of exuberance. If we do, I think that feeds the narrative of like a shorter cycle, and maybe we peak early and that's it. But then, if we're going to follow that fractal of last cycle, then, we're going to get a big drawback, which is about down to the upper 40s, which makes sense. And then we'd have that second top sometime at the end of 2024. So if we do the double top routine like we did last cycle, that's kind of what I'd be looking at. Now, if we have an extended bull run and people, are really hot to trot about getting to that $100,000 call on Bitcoin, exuberance is a funny thing. FOMO is a crazy thing. Retail investors typically buy tops, and, depending on what the narratives are and what the news cycle's doing, if we do this double top routine, that second top could not stop, right? And we could go ahead and push higher. And then there's bigger patterns that have been playing out for a long time, this big white parallel ascending channel. And, and that could put us up over 110K, right? And that would take us out into the middle of 25 to the end of 25, which, a lot is what the lengthening cycle or the full 4-year cycle, model kind of represents. So it'll be interesting to see if this fractal plays out. In the meantime, I'm looking at more common indicators for shorter term stuff, like EMAs. I use the crown indicators in the background. I usually don't share that stuff publicly because it's a little complicated, and I just try to keep mine super dumbed down, and just that's where I'm doing pattern recognition, right? So like channels, triangles, bull flags, bear flags, things of that nature, to just kind of keep it more accessible to the masses, and primarily just so they understand where supports and resistances will be, and then they don't panic, right? So like if it helps them resist FOMO, because they're like, hey, now from looking at Toby's stuff, it looks like we should have some resistance at this level, so I'm going to have a breather to where maybe I can assess and if I want to buy there, or if I want to chase the green candles. On the converse side, if we're starting to dump, it's like, oh my God, it's not gloom and doom and like sell everything and bail and FUD yourself out. It's like we should have some support at this level and this level, and I'm going to look there for buying opportunities, right? So that's kind of my MO as far as TA goes. But what I think everybody's more interested in when I do these little fun Thursday segments is the hex stuff, right? So this is the hex HEX chart with versus USDC over on TradingView. Come on, TradingView,
Donovan
get with
has
it.
Put out like a 20-minute TA analysis video on YouTube
Awesome.
this last Saturday. I urge everyone to check that out because Donovan believes we're on the verge of a breakout here. Ain't that right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And it's like, so the thing that I kind of try to focus on, I mean, the moon math stuff's fun. And it's like, we did that last week, where we were looking at, by February 25, like a $10 hex. But, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. It's ridiculous to try to call stuff.
Kind of viral in the community.
Yeah. People love to hear that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get it, but it's like nobody can make calls that far out in advance.
Why
not
so
even Richard
bearish,
Hart.
Toby?
It's like,
they also called us crazy too.
Even Richard, like what's the famous line? I called the top on the day. He didn't call it 6 months before the day. He called it on the day, right? Like he read the tea leaves and he knew that was the top, and he called it and he nailed it, right? So that's the thing. It's like if you get too far out there, there's just too many variables, and it's just it's voodoo at that point. So I kind of like to look at kind of supports and resistances along the way. The EMAs are really good indicators. We got a long history with EHEX, so it's easy because we have got an established 200 EMA, 100 EMA, 55, 21 day. Those are the ones that I rely on. Right now on EHEX, we're just dipped below the 21 EMA. We were finding support on it, and we were basically bouncing between the 21 EMA and the 200 EMA. So that's where we were getting a lot of resistance. I know the Bank X talk is out there where they've got their sell wall in at I think 1.2 cents to something, 2 cents maybe, which is, in my opinion, a better thing, right? It sounds like they're learning because that's a better way to exit than to market dump. And that creates a lot less fear and uncertainty and doubt in the market of like what, when's the next like sword of Damocles going to come down on all of our heads. And, if you're not ready to sell and you're not buying, prices don't matter, right? So it's like, don't get too wrenched on daily price movements. It's like, obviously in the Hex community, we're largely long-term minded. I would love when we have more time to talk to Donovan at length about T-shares and, the benefits of staking and having that as a portion of your portfolio to stake it. I understand when you're well-versed in TA that, you're going to be more equipped to buy bottoms and sell tops. Unfortunately, even with all the great instruction in the world, most people are going to think they're smarter than their teachers, and they're going to go off book, and they're, a lot of times they get themselves wrecked. So I think, to have a portion of your portfolio in that, and I think DJ touched on that briefly earlier, you're kind of DCAing in by getting you're DCAing in, Papa, once again, breaking my train of thought. I'm glad you think it's funny. But once again, it's like the DCAing by staking, you're literally getting more hex over time. So you're basically bringing your cost basis down without injecting new capital. So that's kind of the rule of thumb on that, right? So if you can do that with a small portion of your hex holdings, it's kind of an insurance policy. It's more like a hedge, right? In case things do go bonkers and you get out too early, or take too much profit too early, you've still got that bag in the future that's earning more hex as time goes by. And then, you're kind of, you got a nice little lottery ticket for the future, right? Yeah. So anyhow, back to the charts. So as I was saying, it looks like we're bouncing between the 21 EMA and the 200 EMA. It looks like we're rounding over a bit. And, with a lot of the FUD surrounding Bank X and that upward or that sell pressure in the 1.2 cent range. I think people are going to be reluctant to sell into that. And I think that there might be a situation where it's like, it's a game of chicken, right? Like, how bad do they want out? And Donovan, I'm sure you've seen this a ton, where people will set limits and they will move those limits, right, to chase the market. If the market's moving away from them, they'll move that limit down because they want to get out, right? They get anxious. So if BankX blinks first, they could move those limits down to where the price action is and start getting filled. If they don't, then that's going to be the cloud over our head, and then we're going to have some people that are coming in that are confident
I think
to buy,
that's actually the best thing they could have done for us,
yes,
community, because
yep,
it's better to have it. We know it's there. The prices it's at, people can take advantage of that if they want to buy in the larger bags. And we are not thinking, oh, when it's going to $10, 10 cents, we have a guy that can dump it down. When we are going to 20 cents, oh, we have that guy is going to dump it down. No.
Right.
This
and
is
in the grand scheme of things,
for the community, it's
right, exactly. And in the grand scheme, it's like his bags aren't that giant, right? It's like, I know people that have bags bigger than that. It's like,
it's
it
like
is what it is.
One AI day.
Yep. But so anyhow, so for where we are now, I think, we trend sideways and kind of see what happens. If we do round over, I could see, some support back down around the 007 region, which would be the top of this channel that we broke out of. Hopefully, we can find some strength and kind of start to curve our way back up. But we are below the midline of this ascending yellow parallel channel. So, typically when you kind of start to round over like that, it's a sign of weakness, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully, we can get some bullish momentum and move up. You never know what the news is going to be around, the Richard Hart stuff coming up in the next couple of months. Any good news on the broader crypto front. And typically, in Bitcoin, I know like Sami was catching a lot of flack for saying that the altcoin season's half over. If you actually follow everything that he's saying, he's talking about like that initial altcoin pump, and then the bigger altcoin pump always comes after Bitcoin pumps. Because people are looking to rotate some of those profits out into something they can get greater gains on. And that's proved itself over and over in the 4-year cycles, which, Donovan could attest to. So
Donovan,
I don't think I'm too concerned.
Dr. Jolley, paging Dr. Jolley, did you confirm with this market analysis here, this chart? Because we'd like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I do. I agree. It's interesting because of the fact we have a completely different perspective on the market. And that's like why I do value seeing other people's point of views, because I don't see certain things that other people see, because we view the market in a different way. And that's always something valuable, is you get a different perspective on things.
There you go.
Very nice.
Thank you, my son. So yeah.
Anything else with the other charts?
Props
So
to you,
we
Dad.
got like 1
Sure.
minute
Yeah,
left
we
in the
can
show,
race through those.
We
can race through those
still
really
need to
quickly.
talk about Pulse launch. We need to give Donovan a chance to.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. It's like, I mean, basically, there's
advising.
not really a lot changed. They're very similar with Hex on Pulsechain, even with Pulse, same situation. We're rounding over on both. We look like maybe a potential bull flag to take us up to all-time highs on Hex on Pulsechain and on Pulse. We're rounding over right now, which is not necessarily a bad thing. On Pulse, it looks like we're finding some support around the 21 EMA. On Hex on Pulse, we've dipped below the 21 EMA, so that would look like maybe a retest of the midline back down around 1.3 cents. And then we already talked about Bitcoin. So I'm kind of done. I'm actually very interested in what Pulse launch is about. So yeah, if you guys want to talk about that a bit, I'm intrigued.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for that TA session. I do appreciate your time as well coming on here. It's good to see you again as well.
Likewise.
I haven't seen you guys since the Hex conference, so it's been good to reconnect. But yeah, so basically, like, Pulse launch is a crypto I'm advising launching on Pulsechain. When I first came over to crypto, Pulsechain specifically, the value was so much, or the community's value was so much greater than anything that I had ever seen, because of the fact it was truly decentralized. They had built everything from scratch. If there was a problem, somebody was there to fund it, somebody was there to build it. And we saw the value of that same community. So we wanted to bring a launchpad over to Pulsechain, considering I worked with all of the biggest launch pads in the last cycle. I have, my DMs are constantly full with them, even in this cycle, more so this cycle, because there's more now than ever before. and I've seen how much value they can bring, but I've also seen how much, they can ultimately, take from other people, how they can be a little greedy. They can do certain things that I don't necessarily agree with. So when we were talking about making a launch pad, we wanted to have the ability that the community would be able to say what projects actually launch. That's the value of the Pulsechain and Hex community, is you have so many great people that already understand the core beliefs of why I got into crypto. And I couldn't find a better community to be able to launch this on, considering, I was early to Arbitrum, I was early to Optimism, I was early to Metis, I've been in the ETH community forever. But the problem with these communities is they've distanced themselves so far from the original ways that I used to think about, I used to value crypto. So when we're talking about, what could potentially be something that is, gives back value, that allows the community to be able to have the say in what gets, launched on Pulsechain, the Launchpad's the perfect place, because I have all of the same connections from these normal communities, all of the big influencers from these big places. And we're, over the last month, basically, since we've announced this, we've just been bringing all of these different people on board. And this is why I continue to have, I want the community at the center of all of this to be able to actually vote on what happens, because Pulse launch, the actual official launch, is going to be March 2nd. So anybody that participates in that is going to get launch token. And then when the platform goes live, there's going to be an airdrop for the DAO token. So that's where everybody that participates is going to have the ability to actually vote on what gets, launched on Pulsechain, because there's a lot of different areas where, value from other communities, builders that I know in these other communities that have already, built a number of things on ETH or Solana or Arbitrum or whatever it is. There's a lot of different places where they can come in and add that same value into Pulsechain. And so my thing is, if we keep the same community that's been here at the beginning, prioritize them first, allow them first access to actually be able to vote. When all of these other people come in from these other communities that I'm friends with, when we bring all of their money on board, then it's not going to get oversaturated, because at least the people that have those same core values are at the center of the project. So that's kind of the whole reason why we wanted to launch over here on Pulsechain. We see the value of the community. Most importantly, we see true decentralization, and you don't see that anywhere else. And so it was those number of factors that is why we focused on here. And this is also the first launch pad that I have ever seen, and also basically the first crypto, for the most part, that I've ever seen that actually has a marketing agency partnered with them. So one of the founders, the CEO of Sensei Partners, is the marketing agency. And
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, because Sensei is that's a big name in marketing. They have these Super Bowl advertisements, and the Sensei Partners, that's really big. And you've got those on board as a partner. So my question is, when this is native only on Pulsechain, they would need to bring across in their marketing, explaining people on how to actually get over to Pulsechain. How are they going to accomplish that?
See, and that's the interesting part about our incubations and what we have lined up is I can't get into specific details about what projects are in the pipeline and what's going to be what projects we're going to launch first. But like I said, there's a lot of different holes inside of Pulsechain that could easily be filled from people that we know that could come over and launch a project that could actually do those sort of things. So that's kind of why we thought Launchpad first, is because it's the easiest on-ramp to just basically streamline massive adoption. If you have the liquidity, if you have the marketing network, you know all of the builders that maybe don't have those two things, but if you do, you can bring them on with all of their great ideas. And so that's kind of the value that I see with Pulse Launch, is the fact that there are so many different glaring holes that could be, fixed in different ways, whether that was somebody creating, efficient, whatever it is, some type of on-ramp to be able to actually have that liquidity come both sort of sectors. Like I've said, I've never seen a crypto work with a marketing agency. And so that's where it's going to get super interesting, because we don't know fully how all of that's going to end up working on, the crypto markets. But I've seen how much hype comes into these market cycles, and I see the only glaring weakness in most crypto projects is the fact they don't have a marketing agency. So when all of this retail money comes in, when these institutions are shilling it to the masses on Fox News and CNNBC and all of that, you're going to end up seeing all of that retail money looking and trying to find where it can end up going and buying on the blockchain. And that's when I think that these cryptos that have marketing agencies that have already proven themselves to be profitable, built multi-million-dollar marketing or companies inside of the normal world, it's really easy once the eyeballs are there, once they're already have that emotional draw to want to invest into something, because they'll jump through whatever loopholes, they'll sell their house to go into it. It's an emotional reaction, and that's why the markets are driven the way they are. So I don't think it's going to be so much of an issue. If Hex can hit 88 billion in total market cap, I don't think that, you know, the money existing on chain will be an issue. And I think that, you know, these guys set themselves apart because they have that sort of backing of the real world, where whatever money they can bring in from the retail level is just going to be, you know, extra pudding on the cake. Because we're looking at, we already have the networks of the normal world. We already have the KOLs from Solana, from Arbitrum, from Metis, from all of these other crypto communities that have money, that have been building all of this stuff. So it's like, you know, we can pretty much just plug in all of that. Now, how do we get it out to the normal world? How do we get it out to the masses? Well, that's where we're really betting on Sensei to be able to get us to that next sort of level and kind of do the thing that most cryptos haven't been able to do, whereas like get seen, get recognized on the real world.
Awesome. And
Very
even
cool.
if hexagons don't take part in that offering, I think the more, you know, outgoing marketing that we have by that, and if that marketing agency does a great job, I think the community can really benefit off that. So I see.
Can I ask a question? I've seen, I mean, this is typical in Twitter in general, and people being underinformed and ready to grab a pitchfork for anyone that's bringing anything new to the space. I think we all are in agreement that, you know, anything that's going to bring adoption to Pulsechain is a good thing. And just like, you know, we were supportive of the derivative plays with, you know, Hedron and the Maximus DAO guys, you know, bringing different ways into the Hex ecosystem was, you know, widely supported. So I think it's the same deal. Like, personally, I think we should take a wait and see approach and make sure, you know, that do your own research as you do with anything. But could you talk briefly about, quote, the fair launch? Because I think what a lot of people get concerned about when new things come along, if there's allocated tokens to VCs or to shit. I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but my screen just went black. Okay, cool. Yep. So I can't see you, but you can hear me. So anyhow, I just, you know, I know some people have concern over VCs being in the backgrounds and having large coin allocations, things of that nature, where they're going to come in and then ultimately they're going to get their heads dumped on. So if you could speak to that briefly, and then also how you've determined the set for the airdrop of the DAO tokens. I think those are two things that are like legitimate questions and that would probably put a lot of people's minds at ease, because I have a feeling I know the answer.
Yeah. So when it comes to VCs, there won't be any VCs. We didn't have any prior seed funding. We didn't do any raises. There was no whitelist to anybody. We purposely tried to do it to where anybody that participates on the launch is going to end up just all of the tokens will be available. The only ones that won't be available are what the team gets. And then all of the team tokens are locked for the next 18 months. It'll be, they don't get any at the secondary listing. Those will be locked for a further 6 months. After the 6 months, they'll get incremental portions until the remaining 18-month lock is over. So there's a vesting schedule to prevent anybody from dumping. But then with them not ever having any of these VCs or anybody in these private fundings, that was the issue with all of the launch pads, and also working with the launch pads that I did. If I wish I could share with you guys the tokenomics of this one that I just looked at, but I think it's confidential for me to do so. But anyways, I was looking at these tokenomics that they had for this pre-sale, and it was like 35% to the founders, 25% for these early investors, 20% for these influencers. And it was just like, oh, wait. Oh, so how much is for the public sale? 2.5%. And it's like, what? Well, what the heck? So you guys just literally bought the whole token supply. Now you're going to get all of that money. You're going to save 2.5% just for everybody to be exit liquidity. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is just a scam. And this is the way most cryptos that launch are. And people don't realize that unless you're one of the people that gets early access to the cells to do these sort of things. So when I saw all of that, it was like, okay, well, Pulsechain is the one community that values being like values, you know, the fact that there would be no VCs, there would be no pre-sales, like they can trust that they're not, you know, getting scammed in some sort of backdoor way. That was like our primary focus, because to have the community of Pulsechain supporting, the community of Pulsechain has those type of core values as a whole. So you pretty much have to kind of play with those, which at the end of the day, we wanted it to be community governed. Anybody holding launch is going to get a 1-to-1 ratio of the airdrop. So that's how that's going to convert. And so that's kind of why our big focus was making sure there wasn't any VCs or any sort of these big player people that can ultimately, manipulate the whole direction that we decide to want to do things. Because the community doesn't have a say in things if you have, 3 players that own 65-70% of the entire governance. So that was the big focus for us, was making sure that the most amount of people could participate. There's going to be multiple chain options to be able to participate with tokens. So it's not like it's going to exclude anybody. We've got a lot of people interested from Arbitrum. We have a lot of people interested from Ethereum, so we'll be able to incorporate those sort of things because there's been a lot of interest up to this point. It's taken off quicker than I expected, but I think that it's because the community actually values a truly decentralized launchpad that they have a say in what actually gets added to Pulsechain, because that's really the value of it.
Speaking of quicker than expected,
Awesome, thanks.
It is the 1 hour and 11 minute mark. Peter has
We
decided
went
to show
OT.
up. Yeah, OT.
Right on time.
Even
Right
Peter
on
showed
time.
up. Nice T-shirt you have there, Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
Yeah, thanks
Look
to
at-
this
look at
guy.
What the hex?
What
What
Nice.
is just what T-shirt?
What the
What?
shit?
Where's
What
my
body-
T-shirt?
What?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
Sure.
so Peter, get us out of here. By the way,
we need-
Donovan, thanks
no,
for
we
showing
need
up.
Donovan to say goodbye, and also
goodbye.
follow his YouTube, follow his Twitter. The links are all down in the description. Also, the website we just talked about is pulselaunch.xyz, and also smash the like on this stream and hit the sub. Donovan, do you have any last words before Peter is going to take us out of here?
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a really fun opportunity to do this, connect with more people in the community that I haven't met. Papa, it's good to meet you. Elmire, it's good to meet you. Peter, I just now meeting you, but it's good to meet you. What's up, bro? Toby and
he's an
DJ
ancillary.
Cryptomatic. I already knew you guys, met you at the conference. So,
Hex
it's my
conference.
pleasure to reconnect again. And, I'm always down to do these whenever. Pulse Launch has taken up a lot of time. After that, I got the conference. But, after mid-March, I've got a lot of openings. I'd like to have some of you guys stream on my channel when I get around to it, considering that's kind of a part that I'm going to be incorporating as well. So if you guys are open to it, happy to have anybody on.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Outro.
Outro.